Welcome to Clientology, the art and science of client getting. In this podcast, we're going to discuss how you can attract, convert, and deliver. So attract is how do you attract your dream clients while simultaneously repelling nightmare clients? And convert, we're converting those perfect prospects into dream clients. And lastly, under deliver, we're going to focus on topics around how do we deliver wow experiences. The theme throughout is how do we become more referable? How do we build referral programs and deliberately have systems that work to bring us a steady stream of perfect prospects and dream clients? Welcome to the show. Our guests are all Hi, everyone. Today we're speaking with Jared Yellin. He is the founder of Project 10K. And basically, Jared is a non-technical tech founder who found a way to scale his original tech company with $0 invested to over 40,000 paying users from around the world. In April of 22, in the heart of COVID, he declared a moonshot, and this is something fascinating. I've been following it. His moonshot declaration was, I will build, scale, and sell 10,000 tech companies in 10 years. This moonshot has been heard far and wide as some of the most influential people in the tech industry are yearning to play a role. Project 10K will democratize the tech industry by creating an even playing field for all. Welcome, Jared.
My friend, thank you. Honored to be here. So value and appreciate our friendship, and I love what you're doing with this podcast. Many of our co-founders have been guests on the show, and they always come back. They're like, Jeff is really good at what he does. So yeah, I'm honored to be here. Feel free to ask me anything. I'm an open book.
Well, I felt it was appropriate to have you on because we've had several of your founders raving about Jared Yellin, and I realized that I know who Jared is, and the founders know who you are. But I wanted my audience to get to meet you personally. So let's get started. Tell me about your background as a non-technical tech founder. What kind of journey did that look like for you?
Yeah. So I realized really early in life that I was unemployable. So I never tried, and I just went all in on entrepreneurship. And I've had a very good run over the past 17 years, and I've also had some beautiful learning experiences as well. I'm, like I said, a non-technical tech founder. So what that means is there is not an engineering bone in my entire body. I know how to write marketing copy, and I know how to sell. About 11 years ago, I launched a company, like you alluded to in the intro. Thank you for that. Called Synduit, and the vision for Synduit was to build the simplest marketing software in the world, and then pre-populate that software with content across every major industry. Turn it into a SaaS product, so a software as a service, a subscription, and then sell it to small business owners. And Jeff, in my mind, this was genius. 11 years ago, when the first done-for-you marketing platform, I shared it with a few people. They're like, that is a $1 billion exit right there. The problem is I didn't know where to start. I'm a non-technical tech founder, right? So I had the money to start because I had a previous exit, but I felt very irresponsible throwing cash at like such an elusive concept. So I figured, let me just buy a little bit of time, and then I'll gain more clarity. So I started selling myself as a copywriter, and I got two very high profile thought leaders to give me a shot. We did a performance deal, so it made it really easy to say yes, where I would earn 30% of any new revenue that I produced. And in 6 months, I made across the two of them $6 million for them. So I did well economically, but more than the money, they just told everybody about me. And within 14 months, those two clients turned into almost 400 clients. And I was running a very large digital and creative agency for thought leaders. And it was fun. We had a big team, we had a big office, we had a big culture, we had big name clients. It was really a great business. But for me, it was a means to an end because I really wanted to launch this platform. And at the end of 2011, I had clarity of what this product would do. I was going to build the simplest marketing software in the world and pre-populate it with content. So I interviewed a dozen software development firms throughout the US. I hired one in Boston that had a very strong track record, and they said it would take 10 months and $750,000 to build the first version of the platform. So I went all in, and I only have 1 year, as you know, so it's all in or nothing. And I was all in, and I self-funded the whole venture myself. I was 26 at the time, writing a $50,000 to $100,000 check. every month for the 10 months. And at the end of 10 months, it was D-Day, which was called Demo Day. So I drove from North New Jersey to Boston for the demo. And I told my girlfriend at that time, who's now my wife, Lindsay, our life is changing today. I'm becoming a tech founder. So I got to this beautiful office. They bring me to the conference room. They say, Jared, we're so excited to have you. And I'm like, you're not more excited than me to be here. And they said, we have some really good news. And I'm like, oh no, they just said some. I'm like, all right, well, show me what you got. So they start the demo, and Jeff, it was amazing. Like, it blew me away how on point it was, from the user experience to the workflows, for 2 minutes and 11 seconds. At the end of 2 minutes and 11 seconds, I shut off the video. And I'm like, guys, what are you doing? Like, you just got going. It's amazing. I'm so excited by this. And they said, well, unfortunately, that's as far as we got. We miscalculated what it was going to take to finish it. So I'm like, all right, what's the damage? They said, we need at least another year and a half and $1.5 million on top of what I already put into it. So in that moment, I became what you call a statistic, because for the non-tech tech founder, that's a very common outcome. And I remember sitting in the office, and it was completely silent. And I remember thinking to myself, it is so normal to be mad right now or to be sad. And for some reason, I feel grateful. I just feel like this is happening for me, not to me. This is a chapter in my story called Jared's Entrepreneurial Journey. And I am committing right now to ensuring that the technology industry becomes safe. Because that didn't feel safe to me. It didn't feel safe to anyone that I shared it with. The second thing that happened was I met somebody. So we had about 35 engineers on our team at that time, hired through that firm, but one of them was a direct hire. And the one that was a direct hire, his name is Monty. And before Monty was working with me, he was living in India. And when he was in India, he started his own software development firm out of his parents' very, very small apartment. And 3 years later, he had 100 employees. So outside of being a very strong engineer, he's a really good manager and mentor, and really a businessman. He ended up selling that company at the end of 2011 to move to the US in 2012. And when he moved to the US, he was living on the end of my street where my original office was in Englewood, New Jersey. So just picture this for him, okay? Because he could have been anywhere but there, and we would not have met. My office was here. His apartment was here. And in between us, about 1/10 of a mile from each side, was a little coffee shop that I'd never gone to before. I never went inside of it. And for some random reason on a Tuesday morning, I'm like, I'm going to get a cup of coffee. The other thing I don't do is I don't small talk. So when I could go on a stage in front of 40,000 people at an event and speak with no preparation for the entire day. But if I'm in an elevator with one person, I'm on my phone looking down. Like, I just don't do it. So I don't small talk, and I don't get coffee at this coffee place. And for some random reason on a Tuesday morning, I want coffee and I small talk. And luckily, Monty was a line behind me. So we ended up hitting it off. And I said to him, what are you doing for work? And he goes, I don't know. I just got here 2 days ago. I'm like, cool, walk over to my office. And I literally hired him on the spot. And we built this beautiful relationship. And in 2014, I ended my relationship with that vendor. And I said, Monty, let's build our own dev team and do this thing right. And I'm going to make you my CTO. And we did. And we began to build in the US, in Canada, and then we hired 12 people in India that Monty previously worked with. And when you're in tech, if you can figure out India, you're in great shape. It's just very hard unless you have Monty who hires his friends and his family. So that was beautiful. The only downside was they were all contractors. And when you hire contractors in India, their income is not recognized by banks, so they can't get personal loans for anything, houses, cars, like literally nothing. So I wanted to solve their quality of life challenge and my future retention issue. So in 2017, I set up a company in India that I owned just to hire these 12 people. They were really happy. And I was like, that was so much work to hire 12 people. We should recruit with this thing. So we did, and we began to recruit. And about 30 days later, we doubled the team. And that was my catalyst for Synduit. So today, Synduit is over 40,000 active paying users across 30 different industries. We did what we set out to do, which was build the simplest marketing software in the world and then pre-populate it with content across every major industry. So that's really the journey of the non-tech tech founder. It was riddled with pain and unknown and uncertainty and moments, very long moments of doubt where all that I thought about was finding a way to put an end to it, but yet never executing on that, knowing that was super irrational and instead going after this impact that we've now been able to make. And that is really where it has linked me to with what we're currently doing, which I'll speak about in a bit. But yeah, that's this journey of the
Yeah.
non-tech founder.
And for my viewers and listeners, one thing I will note about Jared is never ask him what's new, because it's a bit of a blanket statement. And to be honest, I think Jared evolves and iterates more in a day than most people do in a career. So since you and I met, wow, I think it was probably 3-4 years ago now. I've lost track of time. I'll just say we knew each other pre-COVID. You've evolved very rapidly. So tell me about the transformation from. I remember you announcing the day you fired yourself as CEO of Synduit. Tell me how that evolved into Sela Labs and eventually became Project 10K.
Yeah. So I in April of 2020, I woke up one day and I realized I'm officially obsolete at Synduit, which should be every entrepreneur's dream. And I was very pleased that that was my reality. I was 35 years old at the time. I have 2 young children, happily married, we have a very nice life because of Synduit. And I was thinking to myself, what's next? Like I have a lot of energy, got a ton of drive. Like, what's my next chapter? And as I was thinking about that next chapter, all I could focus on was my commitment to make the technology industry safe, because that was what I committed to years earlier. I then said, know what it is? My next chapter is my moonshot. I'm going to do something that shakes up the world, or I'm going to go down trying. And as I started digging more into the moonshot, I realized what I needed to do, which is what I just did with Synduit, but 10,000 more times by 2031. And Jeff, I don't know why it was 10,000. I don't know. Is 10,000 of anything? If I told you right now, go do 10,000 push-ups, you'd be like, what are you talking about? If I said, go drink 10,000 glasses of water, you'd be like, are you crazy? Like,
Yep.
10,000 of anything is nuts.
It's a
But for
lot.
whatever reason, that was the number. And the one thing I know is you can't negotiate against the moonshot. You can't negotiate against the calling. So I got my phone and I gave a phone call to Monty, who is still my CTO at Synduit, and this woman, Katie, who was my director of operations. And I said, I have an idea. I'm going to do it with or without both of you, but I can't imagine not having you involved. Let's build, scale, and sell 10,000 tech companies over the next 10 years. Are you in? And their exact words were, we are in because it's you, but we have literally no idea what you're talking about. So I said, okay, let me explain. We're going to launch a tech ecosystem. Some might think this is an incubator, some might call it an accelerator, some might say it's a venture studio, but it's none of those. What incubators do for the most part is they'll invest very little money into a startup, and then they take the entrepreneur, they put them in a classroom for 6 months, and they teach them everything they're going to need to do once they leave the classroom. And that's fine. I just don't think that's what most entrepreneurs need. What a tech ecosystem is a place where entrepreneurs from around the world can come and pitch their tech ideas. And these ideas will range from a napkin idea, like literally a concept, all the way to a prototype, minimum viable product. And when they pitch, there's 4 major things that we look for: the right person, the right idea, in the right market, and the right business model. And when those 4 things are present, we will co-found a company with that person. We'll both take equity in the company, so our values are just perfectly aligned. And then we build the entire company at cost. And that's everything from software development, product management, go-to-market, copywriting, graphic design, sales, customer support, legal, bookkeeping, fundraising, investor relations, like everything. And about 97% of the initial cost for the minimum viable product is at cost in India in a company that I've owned since 2017. So the risk is low and the cost is low. So in June of 2020, we got after it. And the name of the venture is called Project 10K. It's a project to build, scale, and sell 10,000 tech companies over the next 10 years. Since then, we've had well over 15,000 entrepreneurs from around the world submit their ideas, ranging from napkin to prototype. Of the 15,000, we've had about 600 of them earn a chance to pitch us on our daily show. It's called What's on Your Napkin. It's kind of like Shark Tank, but for all early stage tech. And then we've said yes in our first year to about 130 companies. We actually co-founded about 130 companies in our first year, which is really more remarkable than 10,000 in 10 years, because this was the year to figure this out. Like, how do we scale India? What other countries do we scale into? How do we grow our go-to-market team and our business development team? What do we do for bookkeeping at scale? And what I'm proud to say is, Jeff, we really figured it out. But what I'm most proud of is that we're not playing law of averages. It's not like if we launch enough companies, we're going to get one or two winners. Everything we say yes to, we see a path to build it, to scale it, and to sell it. And my certainty comes from two things. The first is our team and our ecosystem. So our team is extraordinary, and our ecosystem is off the charts. From co-founders to investors to strategic advisors, just we really have done something special there. And then the second reason is the amount of attention that we have. We have attention from everywhere: athletes and celebrities, politicians, big tech, private equity, family office, Silicon Valley, like just literally everywhere. And one of the people we got the attention of is someone that your audience is probably somewhat familiar with. His name is Grant Cardone. He's a huge real estate investor. His real estate fund is actually over $5 billion, and they've crowdfunded $1 billion of it. He heard about me about a year into the project, and his exact words were, "This dude is crazy or he's onto something, but I got to meet him." So he had his people reach out to my people and set up a meeting. And I live in Florida, so I drove right out to meet him in Miami. And we really hit it off. We hit it off in a meeting in Hawaii, and he said, "I really want to get involved in what you're doing." And it's kind of interesting because when he said that, I didn't really know what he was going to do. Like, he's a real estate guy. I mean, like, he is, if you don't touch it, you don't buy it type of guy. And the stuff that we're building is software, like, you can't touch it. So I'm like, what would Grant do? I remember thinking to myself when I'm sitting at his desk, I'm like, whether you love him or hate him, because he has a polarizing personality, everybody agrees that he's a good investor because he's invested his way to become a billionaire. So I'm like, Grant, why don't you invest in the project? And he goes, I'm in. So he made his first non-real estate investment into Project 10K. And then he said, but I really want to do more with you. And he ended up launching 10X Incubator, which is powered by Project 10K. This is where he goes out to his audience, Jeff, and says, hey, you got a tech idea, fill out this form. Our partners at Project 10K are going to review it. And if they see potential, we're going to all co-found a company together, and he's on the cap table. So we have 7 other versions of that. We call them collaboration ecosystems, which is where we get deal flow from. These entrepreneurs we partner with, they're just across all different domains. So they're able to bring in their network into our world on our quest to build, scale, and sell 10,000 tech companies over the next 10 years. The reason I'm doing this is I want to democratize, and I will democratize the technology industry. Because right now, for the most part, the vast majority of tech, it lives in Silicon Valley, which is in California. And that is the most pretentious place in the world. If you don't have the right skin color, gender, pedigree, bank account, like
zip code.
And I just stand against it. It's like, I stand against what they stand for. And as of this minute, we have more women than men, which was not by design, but it happened. Our youngest founder is 11 years old. Our oldest is 77. We did not say yes because the 11-year-old was cute, although he is. He has a great idea, a really awesome tech idea. We have founders in villages in New Zealand. We have founders in zip codes that have never had tech founders. We don't care about where someone's been or where they are. We care about where they want to go. And when the right person shows up with the right idea, the right market, and the right business model, we're going to give them a shot, and we're going to co-found with them. So that's the model. It's what we've done. It's very inspiring. It's a huge amount of responsibility, as I'm sure you can imagine, because we have a very large team now, but it's more than just that. Like, every time a founder is brought in for co-foundership, I mean, we now have the responsibility of them and their family and their kids and their grandbabies. Like, it's a family affair, which is why we're doing it, because it's going to create generational impact for all that are involved.
I love it, and I love your passion for it. And as one who's met some of your founders, I love the fact, the common thread I see is, they haven't been yearning all their lives to start a tech company. It was just, a lot of them true entrepreneurs. I have this problem. If only there was a way to solve it. And, I'd like to say, when I worked at Intuit, the saying was, fall in love with the problem, not the solution. I find it absolutely fun and fascinating to watch your founders who they love whatever problem they solve.
Yeah, it's so part of this is, let's just say there's 100 companies for easy math. I would say probably about 99 of them would not be doing this if our worlds didn't collide. And they are doing it because our worlds did collide, because then they started to see a new possibility. They always had the know-how and the knowledge around the problem and the inefficiency and their solution to it. They just never saw themselves as the person building the solution because it was a technical solution. And for the most part, they're not technical. And even those that are technical, like they're not technical, they build a tech company on their own. Like they're just more tech oriented. So I really feel blessed because it's paving the way for entrepreneurship. Like that's really what excites me with this. We talk about it often. We are truly running the 4-minute mile in entrepreneurship because Roger Bannister was told that it was physically impossible to run a 4-minute mile. Like the human body could not do it.
Yeah.
And he just never heard that memo. He never got it. And he's like,
Never
no,
got the memo.
and he ended up running the 4-minute mile. And since then, high school athletes do it every year. Thousands of people do it every year because one man proved it was possible. That's really what we're doing here. Like we have first-time tech founders that are 59-year-old moms, like that never saw themselves. Like their kids laugh at them when they're like, "You're a tech founder, mom? Like you can't even use your phone." And they're like, "Yeah, but there's a problem, and this is the solution to it." Like that 77-year-old founder, like he's the first-time tech founder. He's an industry man. Like he's in the waste removal industry, and he's saw an inefficiency for 40 years, and he was ahead of his time. There was no way 40 years ago it could have been built. But and he heard about us, and he goes, "I wonder if there's something to it." Literally submitted this. Like we had two founders. Like a week ago from the time of this recording, that were at 10X GrowthCon, which is Grant Cardone's big event. 3 years ago, just for context, he had 44,000 people in a stadium. So for the size, this one was a lot smaller. The room fit 6,000, and it was filled to the brim. And then there was 30,000 online. So over 35,000 people watching. We had two founders that were on stage that came through his ecosystem from 10X Incubator to Project 10K. And literally 1 year ago, that's what they came to us with. Like a napkin, like literally nothing. And now they're on the #1 business stage in the world, pitching, like selling. They onboarded thousands of users each. One of them was in the audience 3 years ago at his first event. And he said, "I'm going to be on stage someday." He didn't know for what reason. Like he's successful. He's in the mortgage industry, but not like he'd be on stage at GrowthCon. And he was on stage. The other founder 8 years ago was homeless, and he ended up listening to one of Grant's audiobooks, and it just kind of shifted his paradigm. And as a result of that and many other things, he's 30 years old. His net worth is tens of millions of dollars now. And he's now a co-founder of a tech company with myself, with Grant, and part of Project 10K and 10X Incubator. And he's on stage. Like, I don't take any credit for this. Like, I was the catalyst. I got it going. I was crazy enough to think I can. And that really is what it takes. Because one of the things that I preach, and it really drives people nuts, is commit and figure out the details later. Because if I had to figure out the details prior to committing, I still wouldn't have committed because there's just too many details. Like there's just too many details in what we're looking to do. There's details within details within details within details. Like if I had to figure out that level of detail, we never would have got started. So for me, I'm like, commit and let's just go. Commit and let's just go. And that doesn't mean that it's pretty, because I don't care if it's pretty. But what it does mean is we start building progress. And progress builds into momentum. Momentum builds into velocity. And once you hit velocity, you're at a really good point. So I just encourage all of you that have that idea right now. Like you have some idea, it's on a piece of paper. You're like, I feel silly. Like I'm not the right person. Like all that story that you tell yourself, just submit it. Because the worst that can happen is it remains an idea on paper. The best that it can happen is you become a tech founder of that idea. And that's a very exciting life.
Yeah. And for those that are watching this, go back and watch a couple of the other interviews with the founders, because I think, it's just fascinating to me. And this is, as an observer, Jared, I would say your superpower is knowing who knows the details and bringing them in. You're not getting bogged into, I need to learn this. I know so many founders that, they go out and research and, here's how to code. Okay, I'm going to take a 6-year coding program. Sometimes you just need to launch. But what I love about the founders I've met is it wasn't on their radar. They weren't, lying awake at night dreaming about the day they quit their job. I've talked to a couple who loved what they were doing. So what advice would you have for somebody who is, they've got the napkin, how would they find out if that napkin is an idea? We'll look back and it'll be on a wall somewhere framed.
Yeah, just to submit it. So we made the process really easy. It's fun. Every single person that's gone through it has enjoyed it. Literally 100% of them, even if they didn't get the outcome that they had hoped for. But it's pitch10k.com, pitch the number 10k.com, and or you can go to the website at project10k.com. And first off, re up about the process, because it's tight, it's exciting, it's filled with. If you love entrepreneurship, you're going to love this. And then just fill out the application. It's completely free. Our idea review committee is going to review it. And if we see potential, you'll make it to the next step. And the next step is to pitch on our show. What's on your napkin? You get 5 minutes to pitch us, and it's live. And we get tens of thousands of views on each of these episodes. It's literally a better version of Shark Tank. Shark Tank's great. I love it. But for the most part, the business ideas that are presented on Shark Tank, they're not going to change the world. I mean, Scrub Daddy is a really great sponge. It really is. But I can promise you it didn't change the world. Like, your pots might have a few less pieces of a dried egg on it, right? But it didn't change the world. It made $100 million from the founder. I love that. But the stuff we hear is just earth shattering. Like, we had a woman pitch us an idea. She lives in a mud hut in Africa. And it's a really good idea. Like, it's a really good idea. We've had, like I said, an 11-year-old founder, 77-year-old founders. We have corporate executives that are showing up and they're pitching. And I always ask them why. And they say, because they just feel really called to do something. Here's what I've realized as an entrepreneur, and really as a human. You have to be willing to let go of good for the potential of epic. And if you're totally satisfied with good, then just stay with good. And this is not a judgment call. But if there's a part of you that's like, there has to be something bigger, more exciting, like more impactful, you have to let go of good for the potential of epic. And the word potential is a chasm that many people don't want to cross. We're just making it easier to cross it. That's it. It doesn't mean that partnering with us is like smooth sailing, you're going to be a billionaire. But it does mean that you're not alone. And that is the greatest value I can offer an entrepreneur, is they don't have to go at this on an island by themselves. And instead, you become part of an ecosystem of, at this moment, well over 100, but soon 10,000 other founders. We call them sexy tech founders that are in the trenches, bringing their innovation to life with our support. So I just invite you to do it. Stop thinking about it. Stop worrying about it. Stop asking your friends about it. Stop like trying to perfect it, and just go and pitch10k.com, fill out the application. You have literally nothing to lose, because in the end, you might just have an applicant still, or you might have a tech company and be on a stage, major stage, like the two founders I just spoken to.
And honestly, what I love as I'm meeting your founders is the disruption that they're bringing. It's not, as you said, it's not that incremental. We make the build a better mousetrap, we make it 10% more effective. We move the cheese, so the mouse just goes away. I love the disruption. What's been your favorite? So I'm going to ask you to pick your favorite child now, Jared, and just what's the one that when you saw it, you knew it was going to be the most disruptive in a positive way, obviously.
It's so hard, because they're all like that. I think the one that I would say is the most universally impactful it happens actually to be my idea. I'm not saying it for that reason. It's one that every one of our companies will use, and I actually am going to venture to say every company in the world will use. And it came from the fact that about 18 months ago, maybe a year ago, I was thinking to myself, what kind of sales force do we need to build in order to support 10,000 tech companies? Because I love sales. Like, sales is transformation. But what I don't love is I don't love salespeople. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, we're probably going to need 250,000 salespeople to support 10,000 tech companies. And if there's anything that I don't want to do in my life, it's to build 250,000 person sales force. So I was like, well, we have to do it. Like, sales is everything. Like, that's what's going to make or break these companies. So I was thinking to myself, well, how do we gigify sales? Because if you think about, these are just like very cliche things, but like Uber is the largest transportation company in the world that has no cars. And Airbnb is the largest hospitality company in the world that doesn't own any buildings. So I'm like, what is that version in the space of sales? Because the one thing about the gig economy that's been very misleading is it's convincing people that they can have it all when it's really not the case, because you're still trading time for money in the gig economy. Like if you're an Uber driver and you need to make $3,000 a week, you're pretty much driving the car the whole week. Like that's like you're just getting compensated that way. So it doesn't really give you the freedom that the gig economy is portrayed. But what can and what will is sales. Because if you have to make $3,000 a week and you make one really good sales call on Monday morning, you might have just hit what you needed and then you're done. Like, or you just make more money that week. So I said, we got to gigify sales. So we are about to launch a company called My Sales Champion. We've brought on a co-founder that has a very, very strong track record in sales and sales technology. They've had a big exit. So this, I would say we brought it on because it was actually, this was like a Jared idea, and I don't execute my own ideas. So I need to find somebody to sit in that seat. And what My Sales Champion is, and it's the most universally disruptive because every single company in the world will use this, will become the largest sales force on planet Earth. It's gigifying sales. We will truly have salespeople that speak every language in every time zone, that work 24/7, 365. There's two sides to the marketplace. There's a side for the business that wants access to the largest sales force in the world. And then there's the side of the sales champion who's looking to pick the products and services they want to stand for and stand behind. And once they pass, we have a recommendation engine that will help them find the right company for them. But once they pass the product knowledge or service knowledge assessment, they'll be able to start selling for these different companies. And it literally is the Uber or Airbnb of sales. It's very disruptive. This is the largest raise. We've raised $1 million. Usually we raise a fraction of that. But we did because of just the sheer magnitude of this thing is off the charts. So I always say to the team, this is our first 1,000 unicorn company, which is $1 trillion. Just because it's so impactful. Like every one of our companies needs it. And I'm going to say every company in the world needs it, from the small business owner to the large business. Like I envision like even major companies coming out with like new product lines, and they're not going to want to like hire and train a sales force for the new product line. They're just going to throw it over to My Sales Champion, because like who could compete with the world? Like they're going to hire a dozen salespeople. Like we have salespeople in every language, every country. But what's really cool about it is it creates financial independence, because if you think about, again, someone that lives in India right now, if they drive Uber, they're going to get paid in rupees, and it's not going to change their life. But they're a sales champion selling for an American company that pays a 30% commission on a $20,000 offer, that happens all the time. And they get one sale. They made $6,000 with that one sale, like in US dollars. Like that is a lot of rupees. Like that one sale is going to change their entire trajectory for their family for a long time. So yeah, there's a huge force for good attached to this. So I would say this one it takes the top just for this sheer impact. Like if we pull it off, we will pull it off. But if we pull it off flawlessly, it's a multi-trillion-dollar company.
Yeah. And honestly, I know a lot of entrepreneurs, they're the founders, they're learning the coding. They're also trying to learn sales and, let's figure out marketing. They wear all those hats. I love the ecosystem that you're building, and My Sales Champion it's my favorite that I've seen so far. Just like you said, for that sheer impact, because, people love to rave about their favorite products. So why not get paid to rave and be on, sign me up if you guys get the Big Green Egg barbecue as a client, sign me up. I'll happily sacrifice and buy one. My wife keeps telling me we don't need one, but I'd be willing to take the hit and buy one. But I love the fact that, people can plug in. They've got, a few spare moments, with a lot of the other gig economy roles, there's an investment. The fact that Airbnb doesn't own real estate means that somebody else does. Uber doesn't own cars, somebody else does. Whereas this, literally it's a computer, a headset, a phone system. It's a pretty low investment but high impact all around.
What's cool, you made a good point too. So like I remember when we started conceptualizing this, like if I had an extra hour in a day, there's no chance that I would drive an Uber, like, because I don't like driving. Like, so like I just would choose to do that. Like not that it's less than me. Like I just don't enjoy driving. But if I had an extra hour in a day, and like I'd be a dad first for sure. But if my kids were somewhere, like I literally had 1 hour to sit around and do nothing. Like I would be a sales champion just to see if I could, like just to flex those competitive muscles that I have. And I would pick a product and I'd start selling the heck out of it. So
Yep.
there's an element of it that's very novel too, that I think brings people into the gig. Like I talked about with Grant Cardone, he's like, dude, I'm getting in there, I'm gonna start selling. Like he would never drive an Uber, like it would never happen, like
Yep.
ever. But he's like, yeah, I'm gonna sell, like I want to get on the leaderboard. So there's like an element of this that has like a really cool competitiveness to it. And what's interesting is it's not like anyone can win if they're able to use words and
Yep.
influence, right? So it's not like it's like if you're not athletic, you can't play. Like, no, it doesn't matter. Like this is a game that it doesn't really matter what your physical physique is. Like, so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very excited about it, I'm passionate about it. It's really a force for good. My biggest like gut punch with it was we didn't have a founder until recently. So it was fine that we would have got it to the point of launch and stuff.
Yeah.
But like I know how much that matters, like to have somebody sitting in that seat. And I spoke at an event and met somebody there that just had an exit from a sales type of company. And he was the founder of, and we just hit it off. And I'm like, hey, you ever thought about launching a gig in the sales industry? He's like, I think about it every day. I'm like, well, we're actually building it, and I'm looking for somebody to sit in the seat, and we just hit it off, and he's now joined us as our co-founder.
I love it. And spoiler alert for those in my audience, I've interviewed this founder. I won't name names just because I don't know where you're at, but I am excited. And, you know, for everybody listening, I'm successful in my own right, but you know, I want to be on the leaderboard. You know, this is a place to play, and you know, steel sharpens steel. So you know, the ability to interact with and compete with some of the best in the world. This is kind of, it's like, you know, the nerd Olympics for sales, and you know, so I'm super excited about that. Now we're almost out of time. I'm going to ask one last question, and this is for our capitalists out there, the investors. How would they get in touch with you if they want to play along with you? Because I suspect it's a lot of fun being in the boardroom with you and your energy. How could an investor, or if you know somebody who wants to play along, how can they get in touch with you and put their capital to work?
So we have two ways. So one obviously is we raise capital for every individual company. And that's a very exciting opportunity. If you go to Project 10K, you can see we have a free newsletter, get on the list, and then we send out newsletters multiple times a week with different investment opportunities. The more unique way, which is a fleeting moment because it's going to fill really quickly, is I was on a podcast about 4 months ago, and the host asked me if I could grant you one wish that would guarantee your outcome, what would it be? And without even thinking, I said, I want more people to care about what we're doing. And he goes, that's a great response. I'm like, yeah, I know. And then I thought about it. I'm like, what do I mean by that? Like, what do I mean by care? And 4 years ago, I wrote an article called the 10 by 10 formula. The 10 by 10 formula states that 100 of the right people from diverse backgrounds can solve any problem they're exposed to because of their knowledge, their relationships, and their financial capital as a group. And there's data to support this, but I've really wanted to prove this for myself. And I couldn't figure out the conduit to do it through until recently. So about 3 weeks ago, I launched an initiative called 100 Changemakers. And 100 Changemakers is a C Corp, and the C Corp has 100 shares. Each share is $100,000. We invite somebody to purchase a share. If they accept, their investment is into Project 10K, which already is over 100 companies, and we'll have 10,000 over the next 10 years. So from an investment perspective, incredibly diversified, but it's more than just an investment. It's a village of people that care about the project. So this is behind the scenes of Project 10K. Like you'll meet all of our founders, you'll see which ones you want to get more involved with. If you have connections that you can make, you'll get equity in those individual companies so that you're more motivated to make the connections. We're doing at least one, if not multiple summits a year, bringing the co-founders out and the change makers, making magic happen on the spot. So when I launched this initiative, I made a list of 427 people that I've known for as early as high school to more recent. You're obviously on that list, Jeff,
Yeah.
because you're an ultimate change maker. And I just started calling them. And I think I got through 60 people. That life got busy. And of the 60, I want to say 51 or 52 said, if you don't give me a spot, I'll never talk to you again. So they were in, which really doesn't surprise me because it is such a unique opportunity. And it's very exciting too. So there definitely are some spots left. And someone asked me yesterday, well, how long do you think they're going to be available? I'm like, I don't know. They're available until they're not. It's not like I'm in a rush, although I want to just get it done so I don't have to think about it
Yeah.
anymore. But I'm sure by the end of April it'll be filled. It'd probably be filled tomorrow if I had enough time to call the next 60 people, but I won't have a chance to call 60 people between today and tomorrow. So, but yeah, if there is interest there, shoot me an email, Jared, Jared, at project10k.com. We'll send you all the details on it. It's very unique. It's very exciting. And the people that have said yes are really the who's who. There's some really remarkable people in that group.
I would say that's, if you want to be part of certain people's inner circles and masterminds, you're paying millions of dollars just to hang out with their connections. I think this is, just to be part of that community would be phenomenal.
Pretty remarkable. Yeah. And then we attach the investment vehicle to it. So everybody gets really wealthy together too. Even though everybody that's part of it is successful, but they get really, like yesterday, someone's like, what do you think $100,000 will be worth in 3 years? I'm like, anything that I say is gonna get me in trouble. So just whatever is on your wild, like, don't make the decision for that. Like,
Yeah.
like it's gonna be freaking huge, right? Like it's gonna be more than anything I could ever imagine for you. So I don't want to even limit it, and just do it if it feels right. And that's it. Like people ask, like, how'd you arrive at the valuation? And I'm like, listen, this is not traditional. There's nothing about what we're doing that's traditional.
Yeah.
So if you base this off of your investment thesis, like it's gonna fall outside of it. So you're just gonna have to decide whether or not you want to do it. That's just what it is. And yeah, it's very exciting. People are awesome. And obviously, Jeff, you're welcome, and your audience as well. We have a full circular on it. We have a letter about it. So I'm happy to share all those resources.
Well, leave it to my friend Jared to disrupt fundraising. I mean, I love it. And that's a great concept. So I want to thank you for your time. I know you're obviously very, very busy with, launching 10,000 companies. And, for those listening, I have no doubt Jared will get there. He is a force of nature. So thank you for your time today, Jared.
Awesome, Jeff. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. Keep rocking. Keep getting the message out there. Always here to support as well. Goodbye, everybody.